Hi, good morning, beautiful community. We might have a little feedback. Hi, welcome to the Self-Love Show. For those that are tuning in for the first time, this is us, Dawn Light here, and I'm my beautiful co-host, Trish Wright. Yay, we're back. It's just us this week. Yay. And we have an exciting show to deliver to you today. My gorgeous co-host here, Trish Wright, my beloved, beautiful sister and friend, bestie.
Yeah.
Yes, we are so pleased to be doing this show for over a year now, and it's incredible, altering our life and our viewers. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in weekly. We really appreciate your support, and just, this is for you. So today's show is all about boundaries. Are you guys ready? It's a good one. I'm going to read this little snippet here. Boundaries are a crucial part of our healthy life and cultivating intimate relationships. Not only are they for the protection of self and others, they are also necessary in establishing one's identity and an essential aspect of mental health and well-being. When we set clear boundaries or renegotiate a safe proximity to another, we are behaving in a deeply loving manner to both self and others, finding a way to stay in connection. When we clarify our needs and set clear expectations in our interactions, we are reaffirming our own sovereignty in a very sacred way, as well as allowing another person to learn how to clearly love us better. This is a crucial lesson, and when we show that we respect ourselves, we are much more likely to be respected by others. We'll practice holding our boundaries with care and compassion, creating clarity in our relationships and opening the door to deeper connection in all levels of our lives. Yes, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously, which is by Prentice Hemphill. Trish Wright is a vibrant, heart-centered life lover. She has over 10 years of experience as a trauma-informed self-love, codependency, and certified sex coach. Her life has taken her on quite the spiritual journey. Starting as a timid, innocent Montana girl, she has gone through multiple challenging life experiences and relationships, including abuse, assault, addiction, and codependency. Through these many personal incarnations, Trish has transformed into an ambitious and empathetic relationship coach and One Love Foundation educator. She believes that cultivating healthy connection with self and others will weave aliveness and sensuality in all areas of one's life. With the connection to the breath being most sensual, the most sacred, her fields of study and expertise include holotropic breathwork, embodied gestalt, nonviolent communication, emotional intelligence, self-sourcing, humanistic behaviorism, BDSM, Tantra. She integrates these together in a perfect tapestry suited to each client's specific needs. Trish supports her community in developing skills of radical acceptance through practices of empathy, self-sourcing, and forgiveness. She understands that each one of us can learn to love our shadow and love more vastly by welcoming the shadows of others. Her current path is to empower people of all ages to take ownership of their perspective and live in their true sovereign choice while staying in deep connection. She delights in illuminating the inner core of each person's inherent strengths while empathizing with their challenges. With their challenges. She walks the beauty path of life, honoring the sacred in ourselves and each other. So this is her personal beautiful quote. I believe relationships are the greatest wealth we have. Compassionate presence and personal awareness can change the world, and we reach our highest potential one small, courageous step at a time. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful explanation of today's boundaries conversation and tool you'll share, and just your beautiful work in life. I really deeply acknowledge you, Trish, for all you've gone through and to be at this eloquent state in your life, to be able to deeply share from an open heart, like, this matters to me. Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
Oh man. Actually, I've never heard my bio read to me. And I'd also like to shout out to Allison Armstrong for, no, not Allison Armstrong. Allison, oh God, how do you pronounce your last name? Hurwitz. Allison Hurwitz, for being an amazing copywriter and helping me struggle, helping me not struggle through writing my bio. So thank you. And for Scott for also reading over that like a zillion times. One thing, I mean, this is a good place to start, is that human beings need help sometimes. And it's really important that we are able to ask for it effectively, or ask for our needs to be met effectively. And a lot of my clients right now, and my friends, and there's some things coming up in the world that I'm noticing around how people are terrified, like full on physical reactions of sharing boundaries. Like, so, my work as a codependency coach is really looking at the place where we abandon ourselves for another person. And it's a very specific, when you abandon yourself. Now, there's a way to negotiate reality with another person where we all get our needs met. Or, well, we can negotiate ways to get your needs met now, and I can get my needs met later. But there's a way to get what we want. And it's about that. It's about everyone getting what they want and living fulfilled lives. It's not about...
And doing it through loving connection.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there's a couple things that I wanted to share specifically about this. And one is, there's this myth and this belief that setting boundaries is going to harm you. So if I'm like, we're in conflict, or we are, this is great. So we're having like, we're an intimate relationship, which we are. We're very deeply emotionally intimate with each other. We share everything. And sometimes my needs for space or fluidity don't meet your needs for solidity and like accountability. And we have to negotiate together to get both of our needs met. Because the thing about it is that I have the desire to stay in connection with you, Dawn. And that's the thing that I don't want, is to, and most people don't want, is to sever connection. Nobody wants to sever connection. So then, there's a couple ways that people do it. I can just like meet your needs and just abandon all of them, like my need for, moving around the world and doing all those things. Or I could say, Dawn, I see your need for connection, and I see your need to get these things done and completed, and you want me to be accountable. I also have the need for fluidity and for freedom of flow, and to work from my inspired place. Is there a way that we can co-collaborate on reality right now? So instead of you saying, I need this done by Friday, and I'm like, I can't do that because I need some space. We're now recognizing that there's a way to negotiate that place. And by doing that we get to choose to stay in connection by meeting each other's needs. Does this make sense? Are you guys following along here in the... Oh, yeah. So, and then the boundaries, yes, boundaries. Okay, let's talk about that. Thank you, Shara. There is this place that I'm not a big fan of setting harsh boundaries in upset states, in places of heightened emotional arousal.
Oh, it could cause even more harm if you choose to do it in that light.
Exactly. Now, if you didn't hear that and you just came in just now, go back about 15 seconds and listen to that piece again, because this is really, really important on staying in connection. When you're in heightened emotional arousal, aka any upset, any like overwhelm, it's not a place to actually set a healthy, loving boundary. Because right here is where the severing of connection and hurt actually happens. Now, this is, of course, when the person who feels the most slighted or hurt wants to set a really clear boundary, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I'm at my intimacy threshold, or I'm at this like overwhelm. It's too much vulnerability. It's too much, like you're asking for too much of me. I need to set a clear boundary. And so it was
not thinking clearly, just because of sheer triggers.
Exactly.
Being so triggered, they can't emotionally take anything else in because they're absolutely so triggered from the material surfacing inside, whatever that is.
Exactly. So I don't know. I'm just going to give you this one piece. I love you, and I need to take a deep breath, and I'll come back in blank amount of time. Slow down, go self-source, and then come back to the situation. It could be hours later, it could be minutes, it could be hours, it could be days later to come back to a situation and really effectively, appropriately, and lovingly set a clear boundary. And we might mess this up. It's okay. So all of these practices that Dawn and I ever teach, I want to just remind everyone that they're practices. This means that you get to come back to practicing all the time. Like I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I'm always practicing coming back into connection with self, coming back into setting clear, loving boundaries. But I'm thinking about boundaries in ways that aren't a place where I'm pushing someone out. I'm actually thinking about boundaries where I feel safe and that are honoring to this person. Now, if I tell Dawn that I can't, like the boundary is like, you know what, I can't just be on video with you anymore. Like that would be a really harsh boundary. And that's what our entire life and our value system and our work is built on. So how could I get my needs met and how could I meet her needs in this way of like really staying true to myself without abandoning myself and also staying true and honoring our connection. And that's through the development of healthy, safe, loving boundaries. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not going to, if I'm upset with Dawn, I'm not going to be like, ugh. What I'm going to do is, I love you, reassurance, follow me here, reassurance, I love you. I'm committed to this relationship. I'm committed to the connection and our values together. I'm freaking out. I want to pull away. I want to run.
I'm triggered. I'm upset. I need to pause for a bit and self-source. I'll come back when I can talk about it. I can't talk about it right now.
So that right there, that's the piece.
I'll come back when I can talk about it. I need a day, I need 10 minutes. Go to the bathroom, splash some water on your face and wash your hands. Hold your heart. Just tune in to what's going on. What am I feeling? Yes. Anytime you're triggered is an opportunity to learn something about yourself. And it's most likely old material surfacing, old feelings, old unmet whatever. And that's the reason what the trigger is about, is it's something inside of you that's surfacing through the trigger of whatever Trish said, or whoever the person that triggered you said it without the intention of doing so, but it triggered you regardless, because it's in your emotional material surfacing is yours.
Exactly. And that's a really, really key piece, right? Is that the sacred pause. Now, if we can all just learn this one thing, I love you, I need space, I'll come back. I mean, that's really like boiling it down to just like tidbits. I love you, I'm committed, I'm here with you, I need space, and I'll come back. And the reassurance piece in setting boundaries is so crucial to staying in connection, because then what the ego does, when someone sets a boundary, when the ego will say, oh my God, I'm bruised now. And it's not the person who needs the space, it's the other person. So if you don't give them reassurance, they're going to be like, this person's going to leave, or whatever crazy stuff that they have from their childhood, or whatever common story that they run. It's not really that crazy, but it's the ego thing. When the ego gets bruised, it'll make up a story of separation. And that right there, the perceived separation, is what causes most pain in relationships. Because of course we're spiritual, deeply intimate beings that want to be connected. And this human existence is like we're in separate skins, and all I want to do is merge with Dawn because she's my soul sister. Like, I don't want to be separate from her. Do you see the whole thing play out? And I know that like all of you watching, I know that because I know that the feeling of separation, because that's the really deep part where we're afraid, where we want to be able to be safe in setting our boundaries. And that common belief that if I set a boundary, that it's going to hurt another person or it's going to break the relationship. Now, there's a way to set a boundary without breaking the relationship. And there's also if you can effectively set it, then the person who loves you will be able to hear it and honor it. Again, if I go back to the example that I had with Dawn, is that if I just I can't do video with you anymore, our life is going to be really hard. Now, if I set it in an effective way that gives her choice as well. Again, we're going back to collaborating reality. Dawn, I'm overwhelmed. I've taken space. So again, we've got take the space, all the things that you need to do, come back into connection. We're going to run the self-empathy tool, right? Do you remember that from a while ago? We can run that again in a minute. So run the self-empathy tool and get down to your wants and needs. Because from here, once you get from the chatter, the ego chatter, down into the feelings and really own and accept your feelings and just let them be without shaming them, because human bodies have got feelings. We're chemical bags of emotion. We're just going to have those experiences. You can just allow them, be with them, and then drop into that place of my want and need for space and connection are really high right now, Dawn. And then I also need something has to happen around the outward expression of the video. How can we collaborate on getting both of these things met? So instead of coming at her as I need to stop the videos, I could be like, hey, what can we do that makes this work for both of us? And do you see how that's working? Do you see how that can work together with her reality and mine? Because now we are I'm not in control. Because that's also another weird thing about boundaries, is that the person with the most boundaries has most control. Mm-hmm. But when I'm really wanting to stay in connection with Dawn, is that I want her to collaborate reality with me. I want to hear what your boundaries are, because your boundaries are the place that you're teaching me how to love you. I'll say that again. Honoring someone's boundaries is deeply loving to the other person. She's telling me how to love her better when she says no. I honor her no just as much as I honor her yes, because the container in which she creates for our relationship, for what she feels safe, is the container in which I can love her there. I can love her deeply. Are you guys following? Type something in if you're following, because this is, I'm hoping that we all can get this, is that it really is, the consent conversation in this whole world that we're in is really crucial to holding someone's boundaries, to honoring their truth, right? Mm-hmm. If you say, share a boundary with me, if you have one, and we'll play it out.
A boundary with, my weekends are for my family. I really want to honor my husband's time. He works during the week. And so I really am very particular about what I schedule on the weekends, specifically Saturday and Sunday. So if you were to me and say, we have to do this, and of course I would, because I love you, and we're very flexible in that way, but I'm giving this as an example right now. So you have to do this on Saturday, and my husband already had plans for us, right? But if you were such a rigid in your request, then I would have to set a boundary and say no.
Exactly. So this actually did happen the other day. It's I thought that I needed someone to come with me to get a massage. And well, it's a very specific massage. It's not like I just need someone to watch me get a massage. It wasn't like that. It was like there's a specific type of stretch that I need another person with. And so when I went to go see this massage therapist, he was going to teach me and a partner how to do it for my knee. So I reached out to you and I was like, I need someone. And you were like, oh, when is that? And I was like, it's on a Sunday or something like that. And you were like, oh, those are my husband days. And I was like, oh. And I heard you and what you really value is your time with your family. You know, you both work during the week. He works really long hours. And so I get to choose at that point, right? So Dawn was like, I'm going to ask my husband and I'm going to talk to him about this, you know, how he feels. She's going to ask him about how he feels about it. This is what you shared with me. And I was like, oh, of course. And when I was sitting with it, her boundary around our weekends, which I also have a boundary around weekends, you know, for work. Like I got to take that space. You got to take your mental space. You got to take your family space. That I'm like, oh, can I try to find another time in the week that Dawn can come with me? Or can I negotiate so that Dawn gets her needs met and I also get my needs met? Because if I was rigid, like she said, it would have felt really low.
That was exactly how I followed up. I was like, can we move this to a weekday? Like that was my next response after saying, hey, so this is really, you know, my family time with my husband and I want to check in with him and I really value his time and our time together. And I need to have a conversation with him about a Sunday.
Exactly.
And can we move it to a Wednesday?
Yeah. And so when I came back, it was, I acknowledged I acknowledged her need and her value and what like she wanted. I acknowledged that even though I'm the one making her the request, but I saw the boundary. And what instead of assuming that I have her time and energy, which is where we get into the most trouble, is assuming that I have someone else's time and energy because I feel entitled to your love. You're my friend. Friendship looks like this. You owe me. And well, I don't really believe that, you know. Shh, we're going to cancel that out. Yes. You know, and it occurred to me that, you know, her choosing to actually, like, she came back and she was like, you know, it would work. But I'd already was like, you know what? I actually really want to honor your space. I want to honor your family. It's important for me to honor our friendship and our love and our sisterhood and our business by honoring you in your family. And it so happened that my massage therapist, well, yeah, it's important to me. Your values and your boundaries are important to me because I know that you're telling me how to love you. Boundaries are how people tell you how to love them without hurting them. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this right before the show. Human beings cause other human beings harm unintentionally all the time. I'm going to say something to you and I'm not sorry, but it might take a deep breath. You will cause harm in your lifetime. I will cause harm in my lifetime. The thing about communication skills is that we get to learn how to come back into connection faster, restore integrity faster, and take ownership of our impact. This is how we do it. So I'm going to cause Dawn harm regardless of whether or not I intend to. But can I come back into loving connection without creating more harm? And that's the thing. It's like, again, reminding myself that I don't have entitlement to her time, energy, or her whatever she doesn't want to do. Like, I don't have entitlement over that. That's not mine. So I did want to share something kind of personally. So again, we're coming back to the place of, I do want to take a breath because I'm realizing I'm talking really fast.
Good. Take a deep breath.
It's something that's so exciting and up for me because I'm hearing my friends and my clients and my colleagues and, you know, just I'm hearing a lot of this up and I'm like, oh, I want to like help this. And for the people who are watching from the Power Posse, I hope that, you know, I'm twinkling you right now because this was really inspired by something Jessica asked me to do. Happy birthday, Jessica.
Yay. Hi, Jessica.
That, you know, when we get coming back into the place of setting boundaries from a place of overwhelm. Again, repeat after me. I love you. I need space. I'll come back. Because what we have a tendency to do is sever. And this is a place of deep harm that might sever the relationship or create a place where it can't come back. So take as much time as you need, and you might need to offer the other person a lot of reassurance depending on how long this space is. Now we're going to get into something later, like an actual tool about how to set a clearer boundary. But I really want you to just think about the place where you're uncomfortable is the place where you're already starting to acknowledge that you need to set a boundary. Discomfort is often, or confusion is often a place in your brain-body connection is like, I don't know what to do with it. My brain tells me that I need to do this thing for Dawn, but my body is like, I need to go swimming. So that's the place.
Or I'm just so hurt, triggered, and upset that I can't function right now. I can't go any further in the conversation. I have to get up from the table. I have to literally remove myself from the situation to understand how I feel.
Exactly. And exactly what Scott said. Discomfort and confusion is an early warning sign. So the key point to these practices, and if you're still struggling with some of the things that you've been struggling with for years, anybody else do that? Because I do. I'm really human. I have all the things. Is that again, it's coming back into the practice of and starting to slow down to become aware of what happens before it happens, what happens before the reaction, what happens before the blow up or the The important piece is that when you set a boundary, that both people are centered, connected to themselves. This is the piece. So if I'm upset and triggered, I'm going to be pokey. Like, I know that. Most people are pokey. Or if I'm going to be fawning, then I will abandon myself, which is going to create more resentment and create a whole other set of things that's going to just die. Oh, it's just going to be a mess for a little while until we dissolve those places together. Right? So try not to, if you can, set a boundary from an angry, upset, emotionally aroused space. And if you can, just take a deep breath there. Like Dawn said, go to the bathroom. I use this all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know why bananas totally just piss me off. But I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to take a deep breath. And I'm going to splash some water on my face. I'm going to sit in the stall and I'm going to run that self-empathy tool until I get down to be able to really acknowledge what are my wants and needs that are coming up. Because I know that if I can speak from my wants and needs to Dawn, if I can bypass the story and the feelings, that Dawn's going to be able to hear it in a very specific way. Now, of course, if it's really, really hot, if it's a really hot, I'm going to want her to acknowledge and validate my feelings. But that's a different way. We're going to get into conflict resolution later. But if you do want to call and get more skills in conflict resolution, call Dawn and I up, or anybody in Love Coach Academy, or your coach, or your therapist, or a neutral friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to get into some boundaries? Anyone?
Yes, let's do it.
Do you have anything else that you want to share, Dawn? I know that I'm just kind of like stoked.
I'm loving the conversation. I'm listening. It's good.
It is good. Okay, let me pull up my document because I get nervous. Okay, so the thing about boundaries, I do want to say, is that when I set a boundary, I think this is inflammatory. When I set a boundary, it's my responsibility to hold it. It's actually not yours. to meet it. Now,
True.
I'm also thinking about setting boundaries that you can actually meet. I'm thinking about you as setting up for success. Now, anybody who's actually like, coached with me or is in my friendship group knows that I'm a triple win situation sort of girl. I'm not just like you win, I win. I'm like, we all win. Now, I'm not going to set a boundary that I know you can't hold, because that is a setup for failure. And that's also not a very kind, loving place.
It's not loving.
It's not loving. Let's read stats coming. And one of the hardest parts is coming up with consequences that you will fulfill when boundaries crossed. Yes, noticing that I'm using consequences, not punishment. Very, very key point. Thank you. Daniel, we can talk about the period of no contact. I have a lot of thought about that, but I do have that. Again, boundaries aren't to punish others. And if you have the feeling like you want to punish someone, maybe taking space to actually acknowledge what your wants and needs are and coming into self-forgiveness and self-sourcing. Because if you really want to punish someone, I invite you to really think about if you want to be abusive. Because when you punish someone in a place that's where they don't understand the consequences, then it becomes, if your dog pees on the carpet 6 hours before you get home and then you rub its nose in it, it doesn't understand that. Like, people are very similar. Behavior, you have to understand behavior is, loving and kind. So setting the boundary. Okay, we're going to go into boundaries. All right, here we go. Okay, so
I also just want to add one thing. If
yes.
You're trying to punish someone, really it's an opportunity to look deeply at where are you punishing yourself?
Yes.
Because it's just that other person is in your life to give you a reflection to yourself. So if you're seeking punishment to punish and consequence the other person for whatever happened, why are you holding such a strict, harsh boundary with yourself?
Exactly.
Why are you wanting to punish yourself?
And that's such a good key point, Dawn, is that if you want to punish someone, then you're likely running with your wants and values. Like, you have a value for something that they might not have that same value. It's part of the judgment place. Thank you for bringing that up. It's so important, Dawn. Yeah. Like, I want to punish you for not holding milk as a value. I'm using these as really like flippant things so that you can add whatever it is that it's like a space holder. Like, I have this value for milk as my top value. Dawn, your top value is kale. Can we still love each other? Well, likely if we co-collaborate reality and find boundaries with that. Like, here's an example. I have a top value for growth in my relationships. I just had a separation in my life because my top value is growth and intensity. There's a level of intensity in growth, and the person doesn't want to participate there. Now, do I hate this person because they don't want to be close to me? No, I love this person. The perceived separation is what causes the pain, but the boundary is, can we talk about something lighter, and can we keep coming back to the lightness? And can I choose with that person to do that? Yes. And there's going to be some level of vulnerability and growth work that is existent in all of my relationships. Can we negotiate time and space and maybe safe words when I'm like deeply heavy and wanting to dig into the folds of my brain? Yeah, there's totally a boundary there. Carrots. Whoa, we're getting deep. I'm going to call carrots right now. Whoa. About BDSM that I really love is that you can utilize, like a red, like I'm flagging right now. Like, I need a breath. So, all right, let's talk about boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, boundaries are crucial to self-love, to personality and identity and ego development, Boundaries are crucial to safety, emotional and physical safety. So no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Again, so you get to choose the proximity to intimacy that you share with another person. Did you hear that? Okay, good. Some of the things, there's a couple questions that I want to ask first. So the questions of, what are boundaries that you hold for and with yourself, the ones that you actually can hold boundaries within yourself? So we're always going to, come back into self-question, self-inquiry, self-looking, setting yourself up in your own boundaries is really important. I used to set myself up for, I used to be almost 200 pounds, and I was like, no, I'm never going to eat bread or sugar again. Well, that wasn't really a realistic boundary for myself. And what that caused is a lot of crazy, bingey, not getting my needs met. So can I actually create a system, a boundary system that I can meet myself? If I'm 80% good and 20% bad, that actually is the right balance for me to create this boundary around sugar. Does anyone else have the sugar thing?
Oh yeah, I've had it. Yes.
So what are some examples? So you can write these down. What are some examples of boundaries that you could benefit from creating? Just fathom in the world, boundaries with your boss, or boundaries with your spouse or your children, boundaries with yourself. What are some boundaries around your time, your energy, your attention, your money?
Food. There's so many things.
Yes. What are some healthy, and we don't even have to call them boundaries, but if that's harsh for you, we can call it, I just had the word.
Healthy parameters.
Parameters, proximity, relationship. How can you have the healthiest, most enriching relationship with yourself? What do you need to uphold your boundaries with yourself? What do you need? Kind of list some things out. When was a time that you crossed a boundary of your own? And I invite you to think about what happened, not when you crossed it, but happened right before. Maybe in the hour, or in that day, or maybe a week. Spend that time just thinking about what happened before I crossed that boundary. What was happening in my brain, in my body? How did you notice, and how did you notice that you crossed that boundary with yourself? And what have you done to enhance the boundary since? Now I invite you to actually think about all of those questions as in you're looking at another person, right? What are some examples of interpersonal boundaries that you currently have with another person? What is an example of which that you've crossed someone else's boundary? How did that make you feel? What happened? See, when we start asking ourselves questions about other people and our impact, then we start recognizing that there's a more clear way to really look at and uphold someone's boundaries. Again, boundaries are the place in which I can love myself and you at the same time. Or boundaries are the place in which you can love yourself and me at the same time. Because that's really, if we can find a negotiation or negotiate or find a place where we can set safe boundaries where you feel safe and I feel safe. And safe could be whatever it means to you. I know what it means to me, emotionally and physically safe, that I'm not overstepping the level of vulnerability and intimacy that I can share with you. And I'm not meeting your needs for the sole purpose of wanting to get the need for love and attention met. But I can trust that, if I set a boundary with you, that I can, or manage my proximity to intimacy with you, that I can still be loved and accepted. Right?
And I can stay in loving connection in this conversation, get my needs met, express my true feelings.
Yes.
and negotiate from a place of love and loving. And if you're too triggered to do that, then say we will come back into a conversation when I can.
Sacred space. The pause. Maybe Scott, if you're still watching, maybe you have I think it's called the pause, like taking a pause. You have a name for this specifically, but it is a sacred pause. At a certain point when you are emotionally aroused, I'm going to use this term because it covers everything, like any sort of heightened experience inside of your body and brain. That's what I mean by that. That when you're in that heightened state, that place is literally like you've got to come back into your body and process that chemical reaction in your being before you can rationally think. Because now you're in your amygdala, and you're totally in reptilian brain. That means you are behaving like a reptile. You fight, flight, flee, fawn, those types of things right there. You're just trying to get your safety, very basic needs met. Now, when you can stop, give yourself empathy, coming back into the frontal lobe, that's where loving, heart-centered connection comes into play. Again, setting boundaries while being in a connected space with self and with other. You can't be compassionate with another person if you're fucking pissed or if you're hating yourself. I know, because then it just becomes a really weird, messy mess. Self-empathy, and then come back. Because here's the thing is, like, even if I was mad or she said something upsetting to me, she's also going to have a perception of the experience that happened, and she will also have feelings and wants and needs. It just is. Even if I feel like I can't believe you have wants and needs, Dawn, over my reaction. You said this, it's like, of course she's going to have her own experience. Now, do I have the capacity, even in my hurt, to hold her in loving compassion? If you don't have that, take some time, take some space, and come back from that sacred pause. Sacred pause is so good. I love you so much. All right, boundaries with compassion. Here we go.
It's deeply healing to give one the gift of the sacred pause when things feel awry, triggered, upset. It's such a healing place. It breaks the cycle of continuing abandonment or overgiving, overextending, all the patterns like that.
Exactly. Because when one abandons oneself, it becomes resentment. Mm-hmm. And the other person can't trust your yes or your no. So basically, when you people please, it is a lie. It's essentially a lie. So when I'm people pleasing Dawn, I'm lying to her. And then she doesn't understand why I'm resentful at the end, because I didn't meet my own needs and I didn't even share them, because I was so desperate for her love and attention and validation that I didn't share what was up for me. Again, co-creating reality is a significantly more connected place than me just giving her what she wants or what I think she wants at my expense. Like, I don't want to lie to Dawn. It's uncomfortable, and my level of intimacy and my want to connect with her is beyond me lying to her about the things that are real and alive for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So boundaries, again, are the container in which we can love each other. She tells me how to love her by setting boundaries and me honoring her no. And sometimes in setting boundaries, you're going to have to uphold someone else's boundary for them. If you're like,
or
no,
your own.
Well, of course that if you can't, okay, so if you were to be like, when I see you, I no longer can hold your hand when I see you. But every time we've held hands a zillion times before, and when I see you, I'm going to want to hold your hand. I'm going to want to hold your hand. You're going to want to hold my hand. And how I can show up lovingly to Dawn is to hold her boundary too. Like, oh, I know that we've held hands this entire time for the last 15 years of our relationship, and now you don't want to hold my hand. Or it's not the safe proximity at which we can, we've renegotiated our relationship. This is how it works. I'm not going to hold your hand anymore. Now, I could manipulate her and get my needs met for holding her hand, or I could show her that I love and respect her boundaries by saying, I really want to hold your hand and I miss that. And you'll be like, I really want to hold your hand and I miss that too. And I really want to respect your boundary. And I'm not going to hold your hand. But maybe we can air hold, or maybe we can just acknowledging the discomfort there is so important. Like, I want to hold your hand and I'm honoring that. Thank you for your no. All right, let's do some, for everyone still watching, let's pick a boundary. You can pick one with yourself. You can pick one with another person. I wouldn't pick the hottest one right now. I wouldn't pick something that's like excessively fiery. If you're upset with someone, again, pause, reassurance, pause, reassurance, pause, reassurance, more reassurance. I love you, more reassurance. Reassurance. I'm just going to pin that to the wall. I hope you got that. I've said it enough times, I think. And if you didn't get it, rewatch or call me up. So boundaries with compassion. Pick one that's easy, because we get to practice. Again, all these are practices. We get to come back to them. We're going to fuck them up. We're going to come back to them. We're going to come back to them. We're going to come back to them. So pick one that maybe has been up for you a little bit. Like I'm going to pick one and I'll follow along with you around my use of the F word. People have asked me not to use the F word as much. I can actually really look at that. So tune in to, maybe you're hurt. Okay. You want to set a boundary. Tune in to your body and feel into what boundary has been crossed. Really take a moment to acknowledge what it feels like in your body when you think about this experience with another person or with yourself. Like, actually, we're not thinking about the feelings, but we're thinking about the sensations in your body. What is happening? Is it in your chest? Is it in your shoulder, your knee? Is it in your solar plexus? Where do you feel the most physical sensations? And then really align to what are the emotional feelings there. Really turn to your feelings with kindness and gentleness. Now, as you're really sitting with your feelings, like frustration or anger, sadness, disappointment, overwhelm, excessive excitement, something like that, investigate what is the need there. Like coming back down into that centered place, like, my need for safety, or my need for, manageable pace and new relationship, like something that I can come back to. What do I need? Mutuality, to be heard, connection. And then from here, you get to acknowledge the compassionate boundary. What can you, like from this place, what's the boundary that you want to create? So my feelings around having someone, not curse, like the boundary is abrasive language, or the feelings of abrasive language. The feeling that arises for me is like, oh gosh, I'm not going to be authentic. I'm turning towards my feelings like, okay, I'm nervous. I'm kind of scared. The boundary that I need to have with these people asking me not to curse, like, again, I'm wanting to, boundary there, they've asked me not to curse. I'm going to have my own set of wants and needs in this place, is to really have some aspect of authenticity for myself, as well as accountability. Like, yes, I want to do this. I also am going to mess up. I'm also wanting to maybe use, curse words at certain points and to really align that. Right? And then cultivate the compassionate boundary in words. So you have the boundary in your hand, you have it in your head. When you say it out loud, go ahead and say it out loud. How does that land? And can you imagine saying it to the person that you are wanting to set that boundary with? How are they going to react to it? How are they going to respond to it? Now, can you kind of turn back the dial a little bit and come from the place of my wants and needs or values of blank are wanting to be met? And I'd like to set like a boundary, a loving boundary with you around this. Can we negotiate something that works for us both? Right. And then see how it plays out. Probably feels a little bit better, right? A little bit easier, a little bit more connected. So here's the steps to actually set a clear boundary. Reassurance and love. Especially if you love this person, offering them an opportunity to be seen and validated in their own love. Because they're probably behaving out of love, especially if they're in your life. They're just trying to get their needs met as well. So I love you. I appreciate the way you do these things. I can see ... I love you. Validation, acknowledgement of what they're doing. Be direct and specific. Clarity, honesty, and come from your needs and wants. Again, I love you. You've been doing such a good job on the documents and writing the documents, and you've been doing all of these amazing things. And I so appreciate your time and your energy. And I see how hard you're working. I see your drive to get this project done. It's really amazing. I have a need for spaciousness and to stay in connection. And I also have this need for just flow. And the level of pressure that you're at, it makes me feel really anxious, and I'm really trying to do it, but I need more time. Is there a way that we can, what I need is for you to stop pressuring me, but I'm willing to negotiate something that works for us both here. How does that sound? Can we do that? And that person may have feelings about this boundary. And this is a really important piece, is like when you ask for your boundaries to be met, to not have an outcome specifically. They may say yes, they may say no, they may say, I don't know, they may get upset. Who knows what's going to happen? But to also come from that place of curiosity. If they have a reaction, like, oh, what did that bring up for you? How did that happen for you? Why do you need to set a boundary? What's going on? What's alive for you? What are your wants and needs? And allow them to co-create that boundary with you, because then it's more likely that they're going to be able to hold the boundary with you. Again, boundaries are the place in which you can love yourself and the other person at the same time, and vice versa. Letting go of the outcome. And if they can't meet your need for the pressure, for not being pressuring or whatever the boundary was, can you just mutually acknowledge the unmet need? And give yourself time to mourn and grieve that with that person. Now, if you have anger or feelings of real big push off, again, reassurance and that sacred pause, that space. And if you can, big point of setting boundaries, huge, try not to use triggering, pointed language. Name calling, this is never okay. If you want a loving connection, name calling, no, take space before you do that. Pokey, fault blaming stuff, not necessary here if you want to set a healthy boundary that's, going to collaborate reality. And then here's the really big piece. It's like after you've set this boundary, or after you've asked to set this boundary, or negotiated this boundary, maybe they've said yes, maybe they say no, maybe you need to come back to another conversation about it. But always begin and end with gratitude and reassurance for this other person. Staying in connection, if that's what you want to do, is crucial. Now, again, I'm just going to say this to drive it home, is that honoring someone's boundary, again, honoring someone's boundary is them telling, like their boundary is them telling you how to love them better. So if you can say, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for your no. I feel hurt by your no. I wanted to hold your hand. And I understand that this is the place I can love you better. Thank you for sharing that with me. Because their boundary isn't about you. Their boundary is their safe proximity to intimacy that they can share with you and maybe anybody else. So you can take their boundary as not personal and help them understand that your boundary isn't necessarily personal, but for your own needs and your safety. That's why we come from our wants and needs in boundary setting. Yeah. If you want to find out more about wants and needs, go ahead and reach out to me on Facebook, or embodied-happiness.com, or embodiedhappiness@gmail. You can just email me, or Dawn. So yes, this is part of the key to setting healthy, loving, clear boundaries, is reminding yourself that boundaries aren't really about the person. Boundaries are for the person creating the boundary. It's for their safety, their whatever needs that they're trying to be met. And for a lot of us as children, we were never allowed, or our boundaries were crossed all the time. I don't know if you know, or if you had this, Dawn, but I did. Is like a lot of children are forced to hug the adults that they in their family members. This is a really common one. And they're like, I don't want to hug them. And then they're crying. And then they're like, I don't want to, that's what we weren't allowed to have boundaries as children. So how could you be an adult and set clear, healthy boundaries? That's why we're all relearning it. That's why we're all practicing.
Yes.
Okay. I do want to speak to this blocking piece, unless you want to share.
Oh, I was just going to riff off of what you just said about childhood experience and breaking boundaries. Like for me, I have had a long journey of healing of how to share and when to share, because I was always violated, around any time I spoke up or said how I felt. It was always a deep boundary broken in my own family dynamic with my father. So I learned to, keep it all in. And I've had to learn to over time, heal all those deep places inside. And if you're interested in doing that inner work in life, really reworking the childhood stuff, childhood parenting issues, things like that, I'm an expert at it. That's been my work in life. So please reach out. I'm really good at it. I'm really good at getting underneath what's really, really going on. And so is Trish. This is our work.
I'm yes, she's really good at it.
It's so confusing. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, just wanted to really riff on that, because it's all the work we need to do, right? Is peel back the layers of where our boundaries have been violated in our own life, because then it's a protection mechanism we put into play, and it creates issues in connection and relationship, because we're living out an old pattern, an old story, an old thing, and it surfaces and it creates a wall of disconnection in our friendships, connection, and loved ones' lives, when really we just need to repattern and reparent that part of ourselves.
Exactly. And it's the truth, right? That we're taught to behave in these particular ways as children in our society, in our family life. And then we have to, or we get to, as adults, is to relearn how to stand up for ourselves and to hold our own boundaries, which then in turn creates empowered life and deeply connected relationships, because everyone can trust each other. I can trust your yes and your no. I can trust that you're truthful with me. Okay, so
Hi, Amy.
here's this one. Yeah, that's well. Good job, Amy.
Yes.
Boundary
I just
conversation.
want to acknowledge you, Amy. Mwah.
So I would like to, and Antonia, you're commenting about being blocked. So that's the thing, is like sometimes we don't hear. I'm a very big fan of direct conversation. You know, again, I'm going to run the steps really quickly. If you are hot, spicy, or emotionally aroused, triggered, like even excessive excitement and delight, this is a great time to take sacred space. Reassurance, space, reassurance that you're going to come back. And if you take more time and space, like maybe you say, I got to take a week or a day. Say in a week, know that this next few days, I still love and I want to connect with you. I'm trying to connect with myself and get clear. I want to speak to you lovingly. And in a week, you need another week. Dawn, I need another week. I love you. More reassurance. Maybe even reassurance in that week. She can ask for more reassurance. Like, I'm feeling really freaked out that you need 2 weeks space. I want to make sure that we're still connected. I can do that. I can give you, hey, I love you and I miss you and I care for you. I'm still working it out. Great. So sacred pause. And then we go into the boundary setting, right? The steps of the boundaries. Reassurance, I love you, gratitude, acknowledgement of this other person that you want to set a boundary with. Setting clear boundaries or sharing your wants and needs that want to be met. This is a huge key point. If I can say to Dawn, I have a need for, I'm feeling scared. I need to set this boundary. I have this need for whatever it is that needs to be met. And then hear her side, hear her experience, give compassionate empathy. Setting clear boundaries is crucial when you're coming from a place of calmness. If you're triggered, it's not the right time. And then after you set the boundary, lovingly, without pinpointing or poking, coming back into gratitude, reassurance, and maybe you are grieving that she might or he might or they might not be able to meet that need for you or be able to hold that boundary. And then you get to renegotiate the level of the proximity at which you can be intimate with each other. I'm talking like emotional intimacy, vulnerability, it's physical intimacy. It's all of these things. Intimacy doesn't look like sexual or physical intimacy to me. It looks like being deeply emotionally vulnerable. And then reassurance. So, Antonia, just to touch on, you said that you heard the second time the clear boundary and they still blocked you. The blocking is for them. Let's say it again. That even if you acknowledged it, they're so hot, they're so emotionally aroused and triggered that their safe proximity is to block you. And in time, it'll subside or it won't.
And how you relate to the issue is the issue. So what it's bringing forward inside of you, it's happening for a reason. So lean in and ask yourself, what's the story I'm making out of this? What do I make this mean about me?
Perfect. It's hugely crucial. And what are you making it about you? Personal example. The person that I was dating got overwhelmed with my process, I think. And he had his own stuff going on. And there was a place where it was like, oh, I need space. And he cut it. He was overwhelmed and cut it really like abruptly. And it wasn't the boundary that he set that hurt. It was the abruptness of it. And what I made it mean about me, poor little ego. The ego's just so sweet, you know? Like, what I made it mean about me, my little ego was like, oh, I'm unlovable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so unlovable that this person can't stay in connection. See? Which isn't true. That person needed to take care of themselves. And so when I got back into, I dropped the ego story. Like, okay, what do I need? What does that story tell me? What does my ego need right now? I want to feel connected. I want to feel safe. I want to feel loved. How do I meet that in myself? Okay, get off of Facebook, go dance, go move my body, get really centered, write a lot, read, talk to my girlfriends, talk to my friends, go into the forest. I needed space too. Realignment. And then when I, okay, now I feel safe and centered in my body. It's not about me. His boundary isn't about me at all. It's about him. And he's showing me how to love him better. That's a really loving thing to do. Thank you for doing it so clearly. Now I don't have to think about it. You just told me what to do. I love you. Great. So now we had this beautiful conversation. It's just like I was really overwhelmed and I didn't know what to do. Oh, you were in heightened emotional arousal and you just needed space. Oh, great. So if you can acknowledge, again, confusion and like that confusion place is this first step into noticing that you might need to take space before shit blows up. There you go. So really just paying attention to that place of discomfort and confusion is one of the spaces. It might be for you. You might just get really inflamed and you're like, oh, I need space. You might get really sad and take it personally. Oh, I need to go self-source right now so that I can show up to you, Dawn, in a more loving, compassionate way, that I can actually hold whatever is in your life, not just my selfish needs.
Yes.
These aren't selfish. Hold on. I'm going to reframe that. Scrubbing that back. Rewind. Needs aren't selfish. Everyone has wants and needs. We all are driven by our wants and needs. If I'm wanting them to get met over, like, even if they hurt you, that's selfish. And I'm not a proponent for that. I'm not going to be like, Dawn, I'm going to make you go out of your way to do all these things, which is going to hurt you and hurt your family to get my needs met. I would really consider why I'm doing that, my impact, and why, really consider why. Why do I need that experience with Dawn? Why do I need that power and control? Is there a way that I can love you better and love me better without hurting another person? Okay. Let's see. When somebody says that they need space, it usually means that, but what does it mean for them needs to be clear. Sometimes people don't know. Sometimes it's just going to be acknowledging that they don't know and that they have a cocktail of emotions running through their bloodstream and they have no idea.
And that's the whole point of taking space, is because they're making a clear boundary of taking space so they can figure it out and understand what's coming forward for them.
Yes.
Because when someone's in overwhelm, it's usually multiple emotions and feelings going on at the same time.
Yeah. Like you can't force someone into like getting clear. Like even now, this person is really like, I'm not clear. I have confusion. Like, oh, and can I just be in loving compassion for that person for being like, I need space. I don't know why. I love you. Like, again, it just comes back to the reassurance. Like the reason isn't always necessary to set a boundary or to hold a boundary, but to know that it's like, the wants and needs piece. Okay. I'm going to speak to this for a second. Love Coach Academy has a really clear understanding and program to help you get clear about how your wants, needs, and values are related or directly, oh gosh, I say this so much more clear sometimes. Let me just drop in. Your wants, needs, and values are clear pointers,
Indicators
of your feelings. So you are driven by your wants and needs. You and everybody else, like literally everybody else, are driven by your wants and needs. It literally drives your feelings. Your wants and needs will drive your feelings. It literally is the thing. So whatever's coming up for you is a pointer to what your wants and needs are. Now, depending on how you were socialized as a child and as an adult and your community and all of the things that you've ever experienced, it's going to, those feelings, this chemistry is going to be related to a thought and you know, your behaviors. Again, so we're going to run it backwards as well. Thoughts and behaviors, how you perceive the world, is directly correlated to the chemistry that you're running, aka feelings, which is directly related to your wants and needs.
It actually creates the feelings.
Exactly. So it's the same.
The feelings.
Now, if you can get really good at the self-empathy tool, like really good, then you start to be able to hear other people's wants and needs rather than their story, their ego, their hurt, their pain, their perception, which could be, if they're depressed, is probably pretty negative. Or if they're frightened of men, it's probably pretty negative for men. Or it's like, maybe I have a sister wound and it's, you know, like it's going to be, and that's a pretty hard place to hold someone's story, because then that's the easiest place to get attached to their story, meaning something about us. Now, if you can listen to their heart and their feelings, then you can acknowledge their pain, their suffering. This is a cool place to connect with
and
people.
This is so important. This is, remember, to come from loving and experience loving essence in everyone, no matter what's going on. There's two things: seeing the loving essence and hearing from the loving essence. And that's how you maintain loving connection, even when you're establishing a boundary. Just wanted to add that in.
Thank you. So then you go from thoughts to feelings, and then to wants and needs, right? So if you can run that program, which, you know, we can go through it if you want. Also, I can take you through it in another show or something like that. Is that you start to, okay, there's something really important. It's called the self-empathy tool on purpose. This is the first thing you run all the time. Because when you can acknowledge your own story as a story, and then you can acknowledge your feelings and allow them, acknowledge and allow, validate, then that gives way for you to be able to be with your wants and needs. And this right here is key and crucial to actually getting your needs met yourself, and then also asking others for your needs to be met. This is a place in relationship. And it also helps you understand on a very human, compassionate level that we're all behaving from our wants and needs. We got really weird strategies to get those wants and needs met. You know, I mean, maybe you grew up in a codependent family that taught you how to people please, or maybe you grew up in a really neglectful family and you became, quote unquote, a narcissist. I don't use that very often, but I think you guys know what I mean. You know, you become, like, you create a facade to get your needs met because you came from a scary, dangerous family that didn't give you your needs. Now, so Love Coach Academy has programs and documents that you can find that gives you the feelings wheel. You know, I'll come to my website or come to my Facebook, which is Facebook is Trish Wright Loves. Is, you know, each word is capitalized. If you just put in Facebook / and then Trish Wright Loves, I will add the feelings wheel. I will add the self-empathy tool just for you. And I will add the wants and needs list, which is a universal wants and needs. It's pretty good. You know, like it's, you'll find the things. So when you take the little PDF that I made of the self-empathy tool, you can practice this with the feelings list, feelings wheel, the Gottman feelings wheel, and the wants and needs list, the universal wants and needs. You're going to start to see how much more expansive and more, how much more capacity you have, not only to be loving to yourself, but loving and compassionate to others. Anyway, I'm loving that we've had so much engagement today, and I'm
Yes.
really cool. Like, I really wanted to do a show just with you and I, Dawn, because I love our guests, and we have so much to offer the world in our own work. And you know, it's been really, like, the boundary conversation has been really up for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries are not meant to hurt. Boundaries are for love.
They're not meant to be painful. If they're done through loving, they don't have to be painful.
I'm also gonna just say this, that some people, one of my best friend's sisters said to me, Trish, you don't have to be friends with everybody. And you know, sometimes there's gonna be a point where you have to not have people in your life. People have cut me out of their lives, and I have had to cut people out of my life too, for my own safety and sanity. It doesn't mean that I don't love them or I don't miss them, but the capacity, the safe proximity at which we can be in each other's lives is to not be. And you've probably heard me say this again. How can you stop the harm? Stopping the harm. Once you recognize that someone is being harmful, because again, like I said before, we unintentionally cause harm all the time, even in being really good people, even in being an ally. We will cause harm because there's 7.8 billion perspectives and realities. If you just have one, perspective, some of us have like multiples, just saying, that it's so crucial to know and accept that you will cause harm. You will step on someone's toes. You will unintentionally hurt someone by behaving as you. The best thing we can do is be honest about what's going on for us, mm-hmm. without blaming or shaming another person, and to really come from our wants and needs in a loving, compassionate way, while self-sourcing and then asking. Like, being self-sourced and then asking for your needs to be met is also a really important piece. I'm never going to suggest that we don't need other people to co-regulate, or like, we need other people. We live in community. We want connection, regardless of whether you're agoraphobic or not.
But self-sourcing is the key, because it fills you up. It fills your cup with spirit. And then you're able to be in a loving connection with yourself and others without seeing through a cloudy lens of perception around what's going on.
Yes, this is crucial. So what I mean by this, and what Dawn means by this, is that when I run the self-empathy tool and I recognize that my need for connection is up, well, guess who's feeling the feelings? I'm feeling the feelings. So if I'm saying, Dawn, you're disconnected from me, well, guess who's feeling the feeling? I'm disconnected from me and her in that moment. So it's my responsibility to go connect to myself as much as I possibly can, so that when I do come back, I'm like, okay, Dawn, I did my writing, I did my meditation, I'm as connected as I possibly can, and I'm still feeling a little uncentered, and I would love to get my need for connection be met. Mm-hmm. What I would like is to be held for 10 minutes. And you might be like, that doesn't work for me, but what I can do is I can listen to what's up for you. Or let's do a meditation together. Let's watch a funny video together. Do any of those work for you? She set a boundary, she said a no, and she created reality with me, which AKA is the connection that I actually like. Thank you guys and girls and thems and theys and z's and zays and he's and whatever. Yes. I support you. Happy Pride Month, by the way. I love you for just being you. Be authentically you. And if you're scared, call me, and we will find ways that you can be yourself and authentic And Dawn and I will help you find ways to be authentic in your life and be safe. Shout out to all my trans, queer, awesome friends and my sex worker friends and all of the people who are choosing to live their authentic, true lives. You brave, beautiful souls. I love you. And you be your bad selves. Thank you. And if you loved this show, tag someone in it or send it out. I'm going to be hosting a 3-part boundary series here shortly. I'll let you guys know. I'll probably type it into the chat sometime. Like us on Facebook, The Self-Love Show. Like us, go
to our YouTube channel and watch all the previous shows and like subscribe there as well.
And add your comments there. Like if this is benefiting you at all, like share it out. Not necessarily for us to get views, but to really make an impact, because this is important. As much as, like this is our job and our work, this is for you. That one of my top values, and I know that Dawn's one of the top values, is to have positive, loving impact. Like, I just want this to work for you. And I want you to be able to take this and have a profound experience with someone creating a boundary that's loving and kind and generous, and for you to feel free and connected in your relationships, because this is so important. I want you to thrive.
Because the more we live into our authentic expression, soul expression, the happier we all are and the happier the world is. And a more balanced state of like existence happens for every person out there, because we're all truly living into our authenticity and not afraid to say where we need a boundary or where it needs to be reestablished, whatever the conversation may be. It's like we all are sovereign and we can all do this together.
Yes. One last thing. Speaking of sovereign, thank you. Friday night at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time, p.m., we are having a conversation with some really powerful heavyweights in the realm of sovereignty. And we are dissolving some of the myths around what sovereignty means and really evolving what we know as sovereignty and really co-collaborating reality together in our true sovereign selves. So taking sovereignty from this like idea of selfishness and adolescent behavior and just like individual sovereignty, and creating sovereignty on a global level, on a universal level. So that's going to be a really, really powerful conversation. Check that out. Whoa. All right. Anyway, come to our, if you love us, come like our stuff and send it out and really like reach out with stuff that you might want to see us teach, or people that you might want to see us host on the show, because this is really about you. Thank you, Dawn Light. I love you.
I love you too. Also, come join our Facebook group called Reclaim Your Trust, a group for women, for all the women out there that are seeking expansion in your relationship, where if you've been struggling in a marriage or a partnership where you felt it's radically out of balance and you're needing to really deeply explore inside of yourself to heal because you don't want to give up on the relationship, you're committed to it, but you know it's out of balance and you can't figure out what it is, then this is the place where reestablishing your own trust and learning, peeling away the layers where your boundaries have been broken and reestablishing your connection with yourself to heal all the deep places so that you can have that possibly even a role reversal that needs to take place in your marriage or relationship. This is the deep work we're doing inside of this group. It's called Reclaim Your Trust, a group for women. And we just go deep in there and share all our tools and gifts and experiences. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. The program I'm creating around this has been a lifetime journey of laying down the father wound. So it's really, really about really establishing a healthy boundary and connection with yourself personally, with the divine mother and father inside. And when you come into wholeness, you can really reestablish that wholeness in any relationship you have, specifically your main partnership. lover, best friend, or, really it's the women I'm working with is really about their main partnership, their beloved. And it's like, if you're wanting to deepen that relationship and strip away all the places where there's disconnect, shame, unmet feelings, always being met with like discord or unease, or feeling like you're overgiving, overextending all the time and you can't get out of that pattern, then this is the place to really dive into it and feel met and held, to where you can repattern and reparent these places inside.
Yeah. So check us out here. Oh, thank you, Scott, for watching. And
I know. We love you, Scott. Thank you so much
for being a great mentor and a great muse all the time. And thank you for Sign Network for always sharing us out and being fantastic. And we love you. We love all of our viewers and our listeners. See you next Thursday.